Africa will give. Africa really does not need to give guarantees. Africa is entering into this partnership as a matter of self-interest. And Africa is already moving to try to give itself good governance, respect for human rights, encouragement on the continent of the component nations for them to do what will be right for their peoples and to lift Africa into the mainstream of globalization. This is what Africa is trying to do. We live in a very transparent world now, and there is nothing that anybody can hide. We met at this summit talking plainly and directly, really as equals. And this is the best guarantee. It should be founded, the guarantee should be founded on the goodwill, mutual self-respect of the parties. This is the guarantee Africa will give itself and to its partner of Europe. That anybody would sit aside and expect Africa to come out and tell the rest of the world about guarantees, I believe is not the way forward. But if you want to test, and you would look at how the African Union is organizing itself through the new Partnership for Africa's Development, you'd see that countries of Africa are agreed to establish good governance on the basis of respect for human rights, respect for constitutionality, respect for rule of law. And in fact, NEPAD has gone forward to establish what we call the African Peer Review Mechanism, perhaps the first of its kind in the world, by which countries submit voluntarily to their colleague members of the peer review mechanism to come into their domestic authority to check on how governance is taking place. I believe the European Union knows this, and I should say that the European Union is encouraging Africa in this direction. So this is some of the guarantees, if you want to see it, that Africa is giving itself, and transparency is the order of the day. This is not saying there's perfection on the continent of Africa. I don't think even in Europe there's perfection in this regard. But the point is, we all see that it is with good governance that we will attract the partnerships for development that we need. Investors would not come if they see impunity all over the place, if they see disregard of humanity all over the place, if they see human resources not being developed, because then you put your money there, the money will not grow. So Africa knows this, and Africa is trying to do all these things now. And we are in partnership with Europe now as a matter of interdependence. The world is opening up. There's a lot to learn from other people, just as other people may also learn something from Africa. And it is on this basis that we earn the mutual respect we talk about, so that together we all develop. That is one. You asked about Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been discussed at this summit. And the understanding is that the Southern African countries, the SADC, will lead in trying to get the government of Zimbabwe and the various parties there engaged in dialogue for solution as quickly as possible. And if there's any leverage, any concerned parties would want to exercise, we exercise them with due regard for the sovereignty of Zimbabwe. It's not for anybody to just move in there and impose a solution. We want to encourage a homegrown solution, so there will be a restoration of normalcy and good governance for the peoples of Zimbabwe. So, therefore, yes, Africa has taken the initiative. As I speak with you, there are Ghanaian troops on the ground there facing real hardship. But the truth is that Africa is not an island. We are part of the international community, and the African Union has cooperated with the Security Council of the United Nations to set up a hybrid force of 26,000 troops. It's taking some time, but we see that the resources needed, the equipment, must come from the international community to support Africa, which is providing most of the troops. And if Darfur would be perceived in this way, perhaps we would see that there would be onward movement. It hasn't been easy getting the resources Africa needs for Darfur and for Somalia, if I may include that. But I believe with goodwill all around, the hybrid force will be put together so at least humanitarian actions can be brought to the people of Darfur.